It is a bit of a disappointing close, more so for the banks, down about 0.5%. And I don't think the broader markets would have fared too well either. From the levels that they started off at, I'm sure the mid-caps and the small caps have come off too, though marginally in the green, more so the small cap space about 1/3%. But what's moving up and what's gone off? Tata Motors, DVR, Larsen & Toubro, ONGC are amongst stocks which have done well. IT has not done too badly, so you've seen stocks like Wipro and Infosys doing okay. But that's about the list of gainers. Now, if you take the space down to the losers, Dr. Reddy, Bharti, Mahindra & Mahindra, HDFC Bank, I think the HDFC twins have not done too well, and that's a bit of a disappointment. And somewhere down the bottom grade is also Reliance Industries, which has corrected about 0.5%. So a few heavyweights really proving to be a bit of a drag on the large cap space. But what about the mid caps, Navneet?
Well, good day for the Anil Ambani group companies. I want to start off with Reliance Communication. That stock saw a sudden surge in the second half of the trading session. In fact, at one point of time, it was up almost 38 to 40%. But finally, I guess, closing with 34% gains at levels of about 17. And the rub-off effect was seen on the other companies as well. So Reliance Naval also saw substantial gains. That stock closed with gains of over 9%. Besides that, Morphin Lab did pretty well in today's trade after the company got an approval from US FDA for one of the generic drugs. So locked in upper circuit with gains of almost 20%. We did speak to the management. They highlighted they expect gross margins of almost 30 to 35% from this product. Canterville Retail is one of the stocks which has been pretty active actually in the past few sessions. If you look at it today also, it was up almost 14%, closing around the levels of 127. The mid-cap cement companies came in focus in the second half of the session. So you had Ramco Cement, which is also in the futures and options space, one of the top F&O securities in today's trade, 15% higher there. And even India Cement surged. The rub-off effect was seen there as well. So that stock was up almost 4% in trade. From the realty pack, the Nifty Realty Index was your top sectoral gainer. And the top gainers there were HTIL as well as DLF. So these two stocks closed the day with gains of between 5 to 6%. Jain Irrigation, second straight day of good gains. In fact, the stock also touched its fresh 52-week high, so up almost 4%. The media pack was the other one which did well. So stocks like TV18 Broadcast as well as PVR saw a good amount of gains in today's trading session. Pradeep.
So let's look at some of the key drivers for Nifty in today's trade and figure out which stocks were really helping and which were dragging the markets down. So we had ICICI Bank, Infosys, L&T and HUL to some extent contributing on the positive side. Interestingly, on the negative side, also we have 3 banks. So the 4 private sector banks that carry a lot of weightage, 3 out of them were on the negative side. But that's not all. In fact, the PSU banks were also kind of working on sentiment. So if you look at the PSU bank index, that remained weak because PNB opened lower after the QIP stocks hit the market today. And after that came the news about Bank of India in last minute of trade. So that also played a key role in the movement today. Bank of India cracked towards the end and it took the banking sector down. Along with that, Nifty Bank finally closing lower by 150 points or so. But interestingly, you'll see a completely different picture if you look at the mid-cap index. The Nifty Mid-Cap 100 Free Float Index, the one that we track, has already hit a fresh high. Yesterday, it moved on to hit a new high today and is going to end the day very close to the day's high. And that is the reason, if you look at the market breadth overall, maybe when you look at Nifty, the market breadth doesn't look that great. But if you look at the overall market, even towards the end today, we had 3 stock advancing for every 2 decliners. So net, the market breadth outside Nifty looks good, while within Nifty or Sensex, if you look at it, there are more losers than gainers, and you can see it now. Almost 60% and stocks were down. Although since morning, the breadth of Nifty stocks has remained more or less 50-50 or slightly under pressure. But towards the end, we saw there are more losers than gainers. So action was more outside the index than within the index, one would say. And if you look at the overall action today in the markets, where the turnover reached amidst all this volatility during the day, finally we end the day at 7,75,000. If you look at the cash market though, 34, almost 39, 40,000. That is, turnover is really on the higher side, Navneet, I would say, in today's trade if you look at the cash market action.
The cash market turnover is definitely on the higher side, and for the F&O, I'll call it, it's above the average. Usually we get to see 5 to 6 lakh crore of turnover on an average basis in the futures and options market.